Truth to power. Truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking the truth to power. Truth to power. Truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking truth to power. Truth to power. Truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking truth to power. Myself. Information, and lions. Welcome to truth to power.
This man's welcome.
That's right, everybody. Welcome. This is Information Man and the Lion's Den. We're here to break it down, to get into some of the issues of today. And I'm hoping that everybody out there is doing just fine. I want to go over to my man Lion's Den from the East Coast. He's from D.C. where he resides. But first of all, I need to acknowledge all the platforms that we're on tonight. We're on Facebook Live. So we got folks out there on Facebook Live. I want to welcome everyone that is listening to the show tonight. We're on Instagram as well. Everybody out there on Instagram that may be listening, I want to thank you for supporting. And then, most of all, we're on YouTube, on the stream live on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Information Man Show. So don't forget to subscribe. I don't want to have to play that gospel music on you. If I have to, I will.
With your hands lifted up, why don't you just tell him, Lord, let your spirit fall down on me.
So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Won't cost you anything, but we definitely would appreciate it. Lion's Den, I'm going to bring the mic right on over to you, brother. Let everybody know how you're feeling tonight and what's going on, brother.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? How's everything doing tonight? I'm ready. Rock, baby.
All right. Sounds like we got a little bit of technical difficulty right now in Lion's Den. Little bit of a freeze there when you were talking. And I believe, like I've been saying before, every time you get brothers or sisters together and you start talking real talk, you get into real issues. I'm pretty sure Facebook, they know about us. They start messing around with the sound, man. Seemed like not too long ago, when we came onto the show, there was an issue with your audio. And I can test that the powers that be don't want us broadcasting this kind of knowledge because they don't want us waking people up. Like, for example, here my Instagram on my Chrome's book is now freezing on me. You see, we got gremlins messing around with everything. Gremlins are always messing around with stuff. And so I contend that if we were talking about, subjects, BS, most clarity, we would get top notch. And I did a podcast about this, about net neutrality. It seems to me, Lion's Den, that ever since Pi and Donald Trump and his cronies that he put in the FCC, ever since they got rid of net neutrality, I've been noticing that all of my stuff, my phone, my internet service, everything is slowing down because they've implemented this already, folks. If you notice that your internet is slower than usual, if you notice that your browser is taking longer than usual when you use your phone to look stuff up, you may not notice it, but it's very subtle right now. It's because the net neutrality is gone, which President Obama, let's thank President Obama, who put it in,
Hi, I'm Barack Obama. You're listening to Lions Den and Information Man.
So that's our president who just said, who you're listening to. And I just think that there's something that I think what they did is already happening, because we haven't had any reports. We haven't heard anything from the news or anywhere what's going on with the conjunctions and the lawsuits against what has went down with the FCC in this ruling to get rid of net neutrality. And I've been making this prediction, Lions Den, that I believe eventually that we're going to find ourselves in a situation where Comcast, AT&T, all these corporate entities are going to be sending us something in the mailbox telling us that we now have to pay for a tier system for our internet. Sort of how cable is, how Comcast cable is, where you can't even just get HBO anymore. You got to buy a package. And they'll have a package saying, if you want ESPN, if you want YouTube, which I need for what I do, they're going to be expecting you to pay for this package tier system. And I believe that it's coming, that day is coming. They're going to send it in the mailbox to us, because thanks to Mr. Donald One racist Trump, our cable is being tampered with. So I believe that that's why we're dealing with this fanfooiness right now. So getting into the topic, brother, I need you to let the good folks out here know the topic that we're going to get ready to get into. This is an issue that's been going on for a while. We're going to talk about sports, but we're not going to talk about sports in the usual way. Meaning, I'm not talking about the Warriors and who scored these many points, and I'm not going to get into how whiny LeBron James is and Westbrook. They're whiny. They get bumped around and they're whiny. I'm not going to get into those things. We're going to talk about the NCAA. Okay, the NCAA and whether they should pay college athletes. This is an long time debate. And I believe that there's racism involved in this. Okay, with the NCAA. Some would say that what they're doing with young people is sort of like slavery. They sort of say that, well, in exchange, they get an education. But they only get an education for 4 years. And nowadays, it takes a lot longer than 4 years to get your college degree. But they give these student athletes, as they call them, they give them scholarship. 4 years are up. If you don't get your degree and go to summer school or do whatever you can to hustle to get that degree, while at the same time excelling on the football or the basketball field or the baseball field or the volleyball field or the whatever field that you're on or court that you're on or stadium that you're in, if you don't produce, you can also lose your scholarship. Because a lot of people, let me tell you something, the college scholarships are not guaranteed. Okay? You can be bumped out of your scholarship if the coaches don't think that you're good enough when they recruit and bring other people in. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but mainly focusing on whether the athletes should be paid and looking at the controlling, the racism, the backward system of the NCAA, which is making millions upon millions off of these student athletes, which are mainly African Americans, black males, and young ladies, because the major sports that bring in the money are football and basketball. And we know you ain't gotta be a brain scientist that the majority of the athletes that are participating in both football and basketball are of the melanin persuasion, which are black folks, African American folks, as I like to call us now, extraterrestrial type people, black folks, higher thinking, higher intellect. Okay, so we are the ones in these colleges that are being messed over, and we are the ones that send our kids to these universities, traditional white universities, who at one time never wanted us in their university. They didn't want us, right? They said, Negroes, stay out of our school, which is why you had the HBC schools, which were the only schools that black people could attend, because the Alabamas, the Tennessees, the SEC, that whole SEC South, they didn't want black folks there. Now, look at Alabama. They win a national championship almost every year. You know why? Not because of Nick Saban. They'll make you think it's because of the coach, that he's a great coach. No, it's because of all that black talent that they're recruiting in the South. All those black players are the reason why Alabama's making millions of dollars and winning bowl games every year. It's not because of Nick Saban, okay? It's not because of Nick Saban. And I got a theory that I'm going to lay on everybody for what we should be doing as black people to improve historically black colleges and to bring that money back to the historical black colleges. I have a theory that black people should employ, and I think it would work if we would just wake up, keep it real, have compensatory codes that we play by as black people, and do the right thing, and come together and do what is in the best interest of our young people. And I believe it's not sending them to these white universities that are making money off of them. Lions Den, with that said, as I've said a mouthful, what do you have to say on this issue as we're going to get deeper into the issue? Give the people out there a little bit of your mind on this issue.
Yeah, I totally agree with that info. In my opinion, I think that the athletes need to get paid, because if they pay college coaches almost $30 million for 4 or 5 years just to coach, whether it's basketball or football game, they need to start paying players, because basically, even if they have a scholarship, they couldn't even afford anything else, like room and board or everything. Even though it was a partial scholarship or a full scholarship, they still need more money to take care of themselves. So, and then on top of that, you have families that's also who don't have anything else. Basically, they don't have anything else but football and basketball just to survive. So my point is that they need to start paying players, because they're the ones making the bread. They don't want making slam dunks and touchdowns just to bringing more people. Recruit more athletes in, and so they definitely need. Honestly, they definitely need to go ahead and pay the players.
Okay. Very good points. I really think that black people today, we need to get away from the dependence of whether our kids are going to get a athletic scholarship to go to college. This is the difference I'm going to break down to you and everyone listening. White people train their kids or prepare their kids to be business owners, to own the teams. So while black people are training young black males and young black ladies, in some cases, not always, but in some cases, there's so much emphasis on the black male in sports. While we're preparing our black youngsters to play football, maybe baseball and basketball, to possibly get a scholarship, to possibly go pro, NBA, or NFL. We're spending all that time preparing our kids, men and women, on the playground, and yet white people prepare their daughters or their sons to be captain of industry, to own the damn team. Okay. Right. Now, in the case of is it Dan Gilbert who owns the Cleveland Cavaliers?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, well, guess what? Dan Gilbert has a son. When Dan Gilbert is dead and gone and dusty, to dust and gone, guess who's going to inherit the damn team? It's going to be his son. I remember his son when he's a little kid, right? Well, that son's going to grow up and he's going to own the Cleveland Cavaliers, because his father prepared him for something that is for wealth. And I want to give a shout out to Chris Basin in the chat room. Chris Basin is a brother who does radio on WVON in Chicago. We've known him for a while in the radio world. He's great. He's dynamic. So make sure you check out Chris Basin's show on the WVON in Chicago. That's definitely powerful radio. You can get it on, I think it's on iHeartRadio, which our podcast is on iHeartRadio. And you can go directly to their station online, WVON in Chicago, baby. The Chi-Town, Chi-City. So we want to give a little bit of love to a professional radio brother, and that's Chris Basin. We just trying to get our stuff together, Chris. But you know what? Hey, we're not doing too bad, brother. I'm on a podcasting system that goes national and international. I got the YouTube, heating up. And we're doing our thing on Facebook and all the platforms that we can get our hands on. And I've got some Google jumping off, Google Play, and we got an iHeart podcast. So, brother, who knows what's going to happen? Me and Lions Den might create our own radio station. Hell, you can damn near create your own radio station. There's always a Radio Shack around the corner. Get all the no, I'm serious.
Exactly.
But I'm serious, brother, because there's so much equipment now, and with the internet, I see you too, Chris. Brother, you're the man, and we try to check out your show on WVON. I keep giving WVON a lot of love here, but yet no check coming in the mail.
Right.
I'm giving a lot of advertisement here. I'm waiting for my check, Chris. But I'm joking.
We love you, brother.
We love you, though, brother. We love everybody out there that's watching us. Thank you for watching us. But getting back into the topic, I just had to give a little love to brother Chris. He's a professional radio brother there, and he does it best. And I want to just get back on point. So, white people in this country prepare their kids for industry, to be captains of industry. So while we're preparing our kids, in some cases, not in all, because we do have black children that are doing brilliant things in education, but that's not what's being emphasized, right? It's not being emphasized. It's not being emphasized by the media. And when people think of black children or black males, they tend to think about, oh, he's probably an athlete, right? He's probably in this college because he got a scholarship, right? Not because of an academic scholarship, but an athletic scholarship. So white people tend to prepare their kids to be business owners, to be lawyers, doctors, to own the damn franchise. Why do you think every owner in the NFL is Caucasian? Why do you think that every owner in the NBA is white or Caucasian, right? And it's like a plantation. Sports is a plantation mentality because you've got the owners are in the box seats. They're usually white. Okay? And then all the players on the field are usually black. It's like a plantation. And it reminds me of that movie, Django Unchained. This is very important, folks. Very important. Remember the scene, Lions Den in Django Unchained, where Candy of Candyland or whatever, there was a scene where they walked into his house and he had the two brothers fighting each other. Mandingos, they called us, right? Yeah. They called us. Mandingo fighting, warriors fighting each other. And you've got the Mandingos fighting each other while the white men are sitting in their chair talking about, come on, Negro, come on, fight, come on. A little bit tougher, right? So they're drinking. What are they drinking? They're drinking liquor. They're drinking scotch. They're drinking bourbon. They're having a good time. It's like they're eating popcorn at a game. Well, what do people do today when it comes to sports, white folks in particular? They go to the game. They watch black men on the field running around, fighting and popping each other while they're eating popcorn, drinking wine. And that's what the owners do in the luxury boxes as they say, look at my Negroes out there. As Donald Trump would say, look at my African American, right? Look at my Negroes out there running up and down the field, having a good time, right? So they enjoy because they've got their high paid slaves, which are the black athletes, out there on the field, okay, busting their butt, busting their rumps, high-paid slaves, and the owner sits out there and he enjoys it. And just like in the movie Django Unchained, where he kept eventually one of the Mandingo warriors, eventually he beat another person and he broke the guy up. He broke his arm or broke the guy up real bad, right? And then what did Candy do in Django Unchained? He ended up saying, boy, you want a beer? He gave him a beer, right? He gave him something to drink, gave him a treat and said, you know, thank you for doing my bidding, sort of like, right? Well, what do owners do in sports, man? They pay, they give them once. When a player gets hurt, they discard him. They discard that brother in Django Unchained that got hurt, right? When the athlete gets hurt, he gets discarded. He gets waived. He gets put on injury reserved. If he can't come back and play as good as he used to, they'll get rid of him and get them another athletic slave, right? And then the athletes that do well, or the black athletes that excel, the white slave master owner of the football or basketball team, he does what? He rewards his high-paid slave. He rewards them with money. He rewards them with maybe some trinkets. He rewards them with a beer. He rewards them with a woman to keep his bed warm at night. Come on now. They were doing this during the gladiator games in Rome. They would give the men liquor, drugs, women to satisfy them because they were out there battling as gladiators. Football is like that, gladiator sports. So we today get excited over sports, but look at the landscape. It's black men on the field putting in the work while white men set up in the box, luxury boxes, benefiting, saying, look at my Negroes out there running up and down the field or running up and down the basketball court. Well, NCAA basketball is no different. Only difference is that these slaves in college who play athletics are not getting paid any money. They're just getting room and board and possibility that master will possibly educate them. But that's not guaranteed because many of them leave school with no degree, okay, if they don't have proper guidance. And we as black people continue to send our kids to these schools who really, for the most part, don't give a damn about our young people. You know, when Nick Saban and some of these football coaches go into the communities that black youngsters grow up in, what do they always tell the family? Don't worry, I'm going to take care of your son, your daughter for the next 4 years. Okay, these coaches can leave to the NFL and bam, that kid is left to the wind, right? That kid, if he doesn't play well, they'll cut his scholarship. And that bullshit or bull crap that the coach said to the family that I'm going to take care of your son for the next 4 years, it's all BS. I'm telling you that our kids, our young black males in particular, are being used like sheep, like cattle. It's just a meat factory is what these colleges are doing when it comes to athletics. Now, let me read what my man Chris Basin said from WVON Radio in Chicago. He says that's exactly what you're doing. You're creating the platform for your voice. I love you, brothers, more. I love you too, Chris Basin. Thank you, brother. I had to give him a little love again. So Lions Den, I'm going to come to you, brothers. I've said a mouthful, but that's how I look at athletics today. It's a slave plantation because wasn't it the owner who got kicked out of the Clippers? What was this? Sterling, who got very upset when his girlfriend, who happened to be, I think she was a melanated woman, a woman of color, he got mad at her because she liked Magic Johnson, that Magic Johnson had talked to her. He didn't like that. And then what I liked about what happened to Durham, what I liked about that whole situation, Lions Den, is that you, for the first time, you heard an owner say how he really felt. You heard an owner, everyone, express to everyone in the world how he really felt about his athletes that play for him. And that's how a lot of them think about black athletes. They just didn't get caught saying it, but Donald Sterling got caught saying it. And that's how a lot of them think. A lot of them have the same type of ideology as Donald Trump. Look at the NFL. The majority of the owners in the NFL voted for Donald Trump. Let's look at Kraft of the Patriots. I hate the Patriots. Can't root for the Patriots, right? The Kraft family, along with the Patriots, they were supporting Donald Trump. Brady, who everyone thinks is the best quarterback, and in my opinion, he's not. My opinion is always going to be Joe Montana. I don't care how many Super Bowls Brady wins. He plays in the weakest division in football, okay, which is the AFC East, where there's no talent in that division. So he gets in there every year. And I'm glad they lost like they did to Philadelphia, your team. And even Brady was hating on President Obama. And he is a supporter of Donald Trump. So you got owners and coaches in the NFL that support this administration, which is a racist administration. Okay, no doubt about it in my mind. And you got black players in the NFL that are just, have a slave mentality. You could see it very clear, Lions Den, when the players in the NFL were taking a kneel for what they believed in, and you had the president, Donald Trump, and you had everybody in the NFL world who did not want them doing that. They're saying, wait a minute, slaves, you're getting out of line doing that. So if that's what's happening to professional athletes, what's happening to college athletes is 10 times worse. Because one, they don't even get paid. Two, it's so bad in college sports. If me and you were playing in college, football or basketball, and a family member died or passed away, okay? And this is very important, folks. If a family member passes away, and I don't have money to fly back home to give respect to my family member that's passed away, like my mother, my father, a lot of times what happens is that there was an incident in which a coach gave money to a player so that he could fly back home out of his own pocket. Once the NCAA found out about that, they put the school on sanctions. They put the kid on suspension. They said he violated an NCAA rule and the kid could not play. All because the coach took money out of his pocket to give to the youngster so he could fly back home, okay? They don't allow these athletes to have a job, whereas you have other students in colleges that have a job, and their argument is that, well, it's because they're a student athlete, okay? They have practice way too long. They spend way too much time drilling these kids in practice, not giving them enough time to study, even though they'll tell you that they have study hall for athletes and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is that very few brothers, when they go to college and get a scholarship, very few of them actually leave school with their college degree. Very few of them leave school with their college degree, Lions Den. And it's a blatant shame that it's been going on for a long time. And Lions Den, as we go further into this issue, I want to come to you and get your thoughts on anything I've said or any thoughts that you may have yourself, brother.
Yeah, Info. I'm gonna read the article from Sports Illustrated that the FBI, and I'm gonna let every listener out there listen to this report from the FBI. According to Sports Illustrated, federal documents taken from sports agencies, college basketball corruption case reveal potential widespread NCAA violations, which those documents possibly exposing to sports' biggest players and sports reports Yahoo Sports platform Peter Demel. According to the reports, the document provides background on the recruiting operation that could bring NCAA rules violations to many as 20 schools. Get that info? 20 schools?
20 schools.
And more. 20 schools and
okay.
More than 24 players. The document in question were obtained in the discovery phase of a federal investigation. Includes expenses reports and balance sheets from former NBA agent Andy Miller, former AAU coach Christian Dawkins, and his agency. Among the colleges, Duke, North Carolina, Texas, Kentucky, Michigan State, USC, Alabama, with the link to providing impermissible benefits and preferential treatment for players and families of players at those schools. These allocations, if true, points to systematic failures that must be fixed and fixed now if we want college sports in America. So, the point is that you see all these major colleges involved in this FBI investigation with the corruption of these basically not refusing to pay players to pay football and basketball, but instead giving college coaches, like I said, $30-50 million on 4 or 5 year deals. To me, that's unacceptable. I don't care what you are, because again, at the end of the day, players need money to survive. Even with a full scholarship or partial scholarship, they still need to survive with money, regardless.
Okay, that was very explosive. And let me read. Everything you said, Lions Den, was right on time. It was explosive. It was real. It was honest. And I definitely got to give you big ups for breaking down that information. You said something about Nick Saban. Now, Nick Saban is the top coach in college football right now. I was doing my research today. Do you know that Nick Saban don't pay a dime to live in his house? He don't pay a dime for his transportation. I think Nick Saban makes about $11 million a year. Alabama had an aggressive strategy to turn around their program. And the question is he worth that kind of money? But they said that the house that he lives in, he doesn't pay any property tax on it. The university pays for everything, cold blanche. This man doesn't pay for anything. Okay? This man gets $11 million, and I don't even think he pays for the shoestrings in his shoe, Lion Den. He don't pay for nothing. His family is well taken care of. Transportation's taken care of. He's escorted from here to there. I think he's even got a network, on SEC network. I think he has a show, and he's getting paid. These coaches are getting paid. Everybody's getting paid except for the players are the only ones that are not getting paid. But everybody else seems to be enjoying money, enjoying the lifestyle that football is bringing them. It's amazing. And let me read what Chris says again in the chat room on Facebook Live. Chris states, pay the collegiate athletes, period. The colleges make millions and millions and millions of dollars and give them stipends. You're damn right, Chris. They give them stipends. Then also make them take a mandatory financial class, finance class to know how to handle their money. Okay, so they're making them take a finance class on how to handle money, yet they ain't giving them no money. Okay, now look. This is what the student athlete sees around them. Everybody listening out there, my man Chris. I don't have a problem personally when I hear about student athletes taking money. I don't care. And I'm going to tell you why. You're telling these student athletes, a lot of them come from poor backgrounds. In some cases, we got young black males that are coming from poor backgrounds. And you bring them to a university environment where they see nothing but money all around them. See everybody with money. They see the boosters with the money. They see the coaches making money, the assistant coaches making money, the presidents of the school making money. They see everybody making money off of their jerseys that hang up in the school, store. They see their jerseys that are being sold on eBay. They see their jerseys that are being sold on television and internet and everything else. And everybody's making money but them. And so if a booster wants to put a little bit of money in this kid's pocket, I don't have a problem. Okay? Remember Cam Newton a few years ago? There was that whole dispute over whether Cam Newton's father was asking for money, pay for play. I think it was with Mississippi State. And then he ended up, because he got into some trouble, he ended up leaving, I think, Florida. because I think they said he tried to steal a laptop or something. So then he left Florida to transfer to Auburn. But I think they were saying that his father was trying to put him up for a bidding war. And so I'll be honest with you. I do believe that his father did do that. And guess what? I don't give a you know what. Because guess how much money Auburn or Mississippi would have made off of this young man. Okay? Auburn made a lot of money off of Cam Newton. Now, I don't think Cam Newton is that smart of a guy. I think he's sort of a sellout. I think he's sort of an uncouth individual. He doesn't speak about anything. He dresses like a complete buffoon. Okay, and he's sitting up there supporting the owner of the football team who got himself caught up in rape allegations, and he's sitting up there supporting them. So Cam Newton doesn't have a really smart brain, but besides that, I think that his father did the right thing saying, give my son some money, because these black athletes go to these schools. They make these schools millions of dollars and they don't see a dime of that money. The NCAA is making money. They're pocketing money. The corporations, look at the Lions and look at the bowl games. They're all being sponsored by corporations, right? All the bowl games are being sponsored by corporations. Let's see. You got Tuskegee. You got what's that? The Insight Bowl. You've got the Tuskegee Bowl. What's that? I can't think of all the names of these bowls, but you got the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
You got the Rose Bowl. Yeah. Lions Den, I'm gonna have you help me out here, brother. Can you name some of the bowls by their corporate names?
I know. Yeah, Tatisto. I'm sorry, how to spell it? Tatisto, Fiesta Bowl.
Fiesta Bowl.
There's the Rose Bowl, the Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl.
The Rose Bowl. That's the only thing I can think of. There's so many other bowls now that I couldn't even think of that.
And then you have the national championship, and usually the person that sponsors the trophy is either Sears or AT&T. So that's all. It's all corporate, and the coach gets a piece of that money. The school gets a piece of that money. And if it wasn't for these black athletes playing in football and basketball, you wouldn't have all this new infrastructure being built on these college campuses. They're bringing money which does what? It puts chemistry labs in these colleges. It gets new books in these colleges. It brings new dormitories to these colleges. I'm just saying everybody's benefiting but the black collegiate athlete. And you can dismiss me with all that. Well, they're going to go pro. Not every kid that goes to college that plays football or basketball is going to make it to the pros. You stand a chance of becoming a brain surgeon than you do a professional athlete. The odds are against you. Okay? Not to say that you can't have a dream. Hell, I had a dream. I wanted to be in the NBA as a kid. That dream did not work out, and I focused on my academics. Okay? And what I'm saying to you is that's one of the academics is one of the reasons why white people, their kids grow up and they end up owning the football team and owning the basketball team. Look at all the professional agents in sports. Most of them tend to be white, who are agents, sports agents, and they continue to make money year after year. And when that athlete no longer can play, they got another professional slave that's coming out of college that they're going to sign to represent, and they're going to get 10% of their contract. 10%. Okay? And then I think it was ESPN that did a 30 for 30 where they talked about how most of these professional athletes, when they retire, they end up broke, no money. I think Terrell Sprewell, who was the guy who came up with the spinner wheels on cars. Remember how everybody wanted to put those hubcaps on their car, the spinners? You know, he came up with that idea and he didn't patent it properly. and that idea got stolen from him, and he doesn't even have control of rights over that, and he's broke, man. You got stories upon stories of professional athletes that end up broke after 3 years after they retire. They end up broke because they don't invest their money properly. A lot of their money is getting stolen from them. When a lot of these professional athletes go into the NFL, for example, or even the NBA, the owner is telling them where they can buy a house, where they can buy a car, and usually the owner of that team is using someone that he knows, or maybe the owner owns the dealership. So they're giving their money back to the owner or to his friends that are rich. Okay? It's a vicious cycle, and this starts at the college level. We as black people continue to send our kids to these universities, these white universities that don't give a damn about our kids. They don't educate them. They only want them running up and down a football or basketball court. Okay? And the question I'm going to ask everybody out there is, why are we sending our kids to these universities instead of sending them to historical black colleges? And I believe we do it because we still believe that the white man's ice is colder than the black man's ice. And because we think that what the white man has is better than what we have, we underestimate, we undervalue, and marginalize our own selves. Because in America, we are culturally conditioned. And we think that the white is superior and that black is inferior. So we think that black schools are inferior and that the white school are superior. That's why we get excited when we find out that our kids got a scholarship or got an offer to go to Harvard or to go to Yale or to go to Stanford, because we've been culturally conditioned that those schools are better. And I've been taught all my life that it doesn't matter what school you go to. It matters what you do with the education when you get it. Now, I will preface my statement. It does matter what school you go to, depending on your complexion. Folks go to Harvard and Yale, they're going to get the job. If you go to Harvard and Yale as a black person in America, you might get the job. You might. There ain't no guarantee to it, because they are the ones that hire, and they can simply say, we don't want no Negroes in our law firm. We don't want no Negroes in our business. We don't want no, hey man, discrimination still exists. And then they might hire us because they say, we got to look like we're diverse. We got to look like that we're down with affirmative action. So what we're going to do is we're going to hire one Negro male, maybe one female, Negro female, maybe two, maybe three, but we're not going to hire a whole bunch of them. We're only going to keep a sprinkle of them to give the appearance that we are into diversity as a company and we're against discrimination and blah, 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 blah. Okay? That's why when we go to college, we're always one or two or three in the classroom. I mean, black people, whether we're on our job or whether we're in school, we're like, you ever ate Raisin Bran's Lion's Den? You ever ate Raisin Bran cereal?
Yeah.
What happens to Raisin Bran cereal?
Yeah.
What happens to Raisin Bran cereal when you're eating it in the milk?
Raisins.
That's my whole point, brother. You see raisins, but what are the raisins in? The raisins are in milk. It's all white. That's how black people are on the job. That's how we are in school. We go to school and we're usually the only black person in the classroom. Sometimes we're usually the only black person on the job, maybe a sprinkle of us. And it looks like the damn Raisin Bran cereal when you eat the Raisin Bran cereal and you get to the end of it and you see little raisins in the white milk bowl. Okay? That's how we are. And then the discrimination can take place because the teacher or the boss or the supervisor, they can point you out. They know when you're not at work. They know when you're late, because they know that they got one Negro, they got one black person, two black persons. So they know, I have two black people that work for me. Where's the third Negro? he's late. He isn't here yet. They know we stand out. Okay. White people don't stand out on their job because it's a whole sea of them. It's the same thing in education. And so I think it's a damn shame in American society that sometimes the majority of black people on a college campus are black people that play in the athletic department. I find it if you go to UCLA, oh my God, UCLA is even worse. In some cases, the majority of black students at UCLA are the athletes on the football and basketball team. And UCLA, which is under the UC system here in California, is a very racist university. I think Jackie Robinson was a student at UCLA. UCLA and a lot of these UC schools are very racist. Their racism is kind of very subtle because they like to act like they're calling him a race, like we're marginalizing him. And they did they had an event where they embarrassed this professor by putting a picture of a monkey, trying to say that he was the monkey. And I think he ended up suing UCLA, and he ended up being in a big time lawsuit against them. So these universities, man, today in the 21st century, don't get fooled by all of this. Don't get fooled by this so-called MTV diversity that you think is going on in American society, because that ain't really what's really the truth. Okay? So with that said, let me play, and I'm going to come back to you, Lions Den. Let me play an audio that should open up one's mind. My man Jason Black of the Black Channel, who I follow on YouTube, who's got the race war that he's working on, and he's getting crowdfunding for that. He's asking for support, so definitely check out Jason Black Movies, Jason Black channel, because he's working on a fantastic documentary about what's happening in America as it relates to race war. And I'm going to play a clip from his movie, or the trailer to the movie that will be coming out as he's working on it and trying to get more crowdfunding for it. He made a movie called 7 a.m. He made a movie called Gentrified. He's sort of like Tariq in the sense that he makes these independent films like Tariq does with the Hidden Colors films. So I'm going to play a clip that I got from his YouTube channel today. And it was very powerful how he explains this, some of the crap that's going on in college sports as it relates to athletes and how they're being treated by the NCAA, folks. And let me play this right now.
No games, no joking around. They are literally telling you that they are citing cases of prisoners and how proving that prisoners are not employees, that is the rationale that they are invoking to defend not paying college athletes. Now, they'll try to parse hairs and say, well, we're not saying that college athletes are prisoners. No, what they are saying is that the same legal logic, this multi-factor test, the same legal logic that the Supreme Court has upheld as saying that prisoners are not employees is the same legal logic that they are invoking to say the student athletes are not employees. This is the NCAA. And this is how far they're willing to go with it. This is what a race war looks like.
Now that makes me feel very thunderous, because he's telling some straight truth there.
Obama. You're listening to Lions Den and Information Man.
Lions Den, my man Lions Den. You heard the audio. Everybody out there has heard the audio that I just played from my man Jason Black. Very explosive audio. Can you tell me, brother, what are your thoughts about what he just said? He said that the NCAA is going to court, fighting, using the philosophy legally that the athletes are like prisoners or like inmates in a prison. They're not employees. So they're using a law, something that's on the books, and they're equating our kids that are in college, that are athletes, as inmates. Because they're inmates, they're not employees. So therefore, we don't have to pay them anything that we don't want to pay them. Now, that's exactly what Jason Black of the Black Channel, Black Authority, was stating in that audio that I just played. What is your opinion of what you just heard, Lions Den?
Well, I agree with what Jason Black was saying about this. The problem is that, we're taking advantage. I mean, I'm talking about schools now, colleges are taking advantage of student athletes and their performances. And everybody knows how good they are, how awesome they are, but they're not paying them. They can give them partial scholarships, they can give them full scholarships, but they're not giving them enough, again, like I told you, enough to survive. But info, is it getting back to also high school student athletes as well that have been recruited to colleges? Because remember the movie, Spike Lee's movie, He Got Game, Jesus Shuttlesworth? And in the movie, he showed that Jesus Shuttlesworth, is recruiting from all universities. All universities wanted him. NBA's wanted him. Professionals wanted him. And, you see his family members in the movie, they gave him cars, all the boosters giving them cars, giving them money to, go to want Jesus Shuttlesworth to go to their schools. And Jesus Shuttlesworth was saying that I can't take that. I could get in trouble for that. My point is that, info, they're also doing the same thing with high school athletes. They're trying to recruit high school athletes to go to their universities, and they're using every trick of the trade to do that. Whether you buying cars, when you getting them money, even high school coaches doing the same thing, and so they want to get in trouble with the NCAA with boosters and try to make them recruit them to their schools. So the point is that it's not just college athletes, info. It's also affecting high school athletes that want to go to schools they want to go to. So that's just basically also high school athletes.
Yeah, but this is really high school athletes. That's a whole nother subject. That's like a whole nother can of worms, because not only what you got going on in the high school level is that you got the whole AAU teams, which I think is really bad for college, because the only kids that are going to get recruited to the schools are the kids that are on these little traveling teams, and only certain kids are going to get picked for these traveling teams, right? I think Alonzo Ball, the Ball family, I think Alonzo Ball, that's how his kids got featured, because he runs a AAU team. And I think AAU teams are bad because it emphasizes these kids playing sports. We've got our kids playing sports for hours upon hours. And while we're pushing our kids to play football for hours and to play basketball for hours with this dream that they're going to get a scholarship, with this dream that they're going to somehow play in the big leagues or play in the pros, while we're doing that, I'm going to emphasize again, white folks are spending time training their kids to be lawyers, doctors, businessmen, captains of industry, to own the sports franchise, to own the baseball team, to own the football team, to be a sports agent, okay, to own everything. So that while we train our kids to basically be slaves already, because they're going to be dependent on these individuals that white people are raising their kids, that our kids will be dependent on them to give them a job and to also pay them for their athletic prowess. Okay? Now,
Right.
Nick, like I said, Nick Saban makes a lot of money. And the reason why he's making a lot of money is because Alabama wins because he's in the Bible Belt. He's able to recruit all those black kids in the South. That's why Alabama is the top-notch college football team, because Nick Saban can go into Alabama and recruit that. He's got that locked up. I found out today that I think Alabama has about, do you know that Alabama has more scouts than an NFL football team? They've got over 40 more scouts that go all over the country scouting to get these kids. And because he's in a geographical location, and we know that the majority of black people in this country live in the South, he's able to pluck from the best black talent, almost like a slave master going to the auction to pick up a slave, because that's what they did to black people in this country. They had little auction blocks where they would auction on black slaves. I'm going to get me the best black buck that I can get. Well, that's what Nick Saban's doing. He's got 40 scouts all over the country looking to recruit the best black bucks that he can find. Okay? Athletic bucks. He can get into Florida very quickly. He can get into Mississippi very quickly. He can get into Georgia very quickly, Florida, because of that whole area that he's in to recruit the best black talent. Okay? But if he was in California, it's going to be for recruit like that, because we don't have the black population here, but he would not be able to recruit the best black talent because more black people in the South. So Nick Saban is basically benefiting off of the best black bucks. And I'm using that term because that's what he would be calling us if it was in the 1800s. Nick Saban would be saying, I'm going to go get me a new black buck today. That's what recruiting is. They're not recruiting these kids for their mind. They're recruiting them for their bodies. They're hoping that you got some academics that can get you into the school. Hell, there's been a history in which they have actually cheated guys into school, right? They've gone out their way to have people take the test for them. I mean, you've had schools get in trouble for fixing the tests for young kids, for these young students. That they don't give a care about our children. And we keep sending our kids to these universities. This is my theory, Lions Den, before we end tonight. My theory is that if black people would send our young black male athletes and ladies to only black historical colleges, let them go play football at Grambling, Southern, okay, Florida Raptors, right? Howard, Hampton. Send our kids to all of these schools and let them play for those schools. This is my theory. A lot of us black folks, because my boy got recruited to Georgia. My boy got recruited to Alabama. He going to the pros. We send our kids to those schools because we think, well, Howard ain't no good, and Howard ain't no good, and if they go to Howard, if they go to Grambling, if they go to Southern, they ain't going to get to the NFL. That's BS. If we send all of our kids to historical black colleges as student athletes, do you know that college football as we know it, as far as Alabama, Georgia, Auburn, Tennessee, Florida State, all the top schools, do you know all those schools they would all become garbage? None of those schools would be good. Their football would be bad. It would be terrible quality of football, because all you would have playing for these schools would be the white boys. You would only have the white boys out there running up and down the field. And I'm going to tell you right now, the quality of the football would be terrible, because they would not have the best athletes out there. They would have subpar talent. And Nick Saban wouldn't be winning no national championships no more, because he wouldn't be able to. I'm really thunderous about this issue, Lions Den. If every black person, listen to me, every black man, woman who has a daughter or son who's a top athlete, send your kids to historical black colleges to play their sports and get their academics, because we could destroy these white universities and we could bring money to the black universities. I'm going to tell you why. Because every time Nick Saban goes knocking on a black person's door saying, hello, ma'am, I've been watching your son. I like to recruit him to Alabama. Every black person should shut the door on him and say, my son is going to Grambling State. Thank you, but no thank you, Nick Saban. If every black person said that to all these white recruiters in basketball and football, they would have no black youngsters to get rich off of. There would be no black youngsters for these schools to make money off of. And guess what would happen? The TV money would dry up, because these TV networks would realize, oh my God, all the black talent has gone to the black schools, and their football, their product is better than Alabama's product and Georgia. Their product, the SWAC conference, for example, would have a better product than the SEC or the ACC, because all the TV money and all the sportscasters would realize that the best football and basketball players are playing in the HBC schools. So therefore, they would reroute their money and they would cut deals with the HBC schools to televise the football games, which means HBC schools would get all this television money, and all of a sudden they could build new facilities. All of a sudden you would see Howard and Grambling State and Southern and Florida and a whole bunch of the rest of them that I can't name right now. You would see them building brand new facilities like you see in the regular white schools, and you would see them on CBS and ESPN, and they would have to analyze these players, and you would see Mel Kiper and all the foot pro analysts talking about all these black schools with all this black talent. They would be drafting them out of all these schools, right? And all of a sudden, you wouldn't have to have the Lou Ross Negro College Fund anymore, because all these black colleges, the ones particularly in the Division I level, they would get all the top TV money. So you would have lots of money for scholarships for black youngsters to go to school there. I would argue this, that if that was to happen, you would have white kids beating down the doors of black schools saying, I want to go play for Grambling State. I don't want to play for Alabama, because the best football is being played in the SWAC conference, or the I wish I knew the names of the rest of the conferences in the HBCU athletic conferences, but SWAC is the one that comes in my mind the most, right? You would see a new valorization of the black college sports. You would see infrastructure and everything being built, because we would be getting all the television money, in my theory here, okay? And so check this out. And I know this is true, Lions Den, because one of the teams, what was the team that won 4 Super Bowls, the first team to win 4 Super Bowls in the NFL? Name that team, and you better know it if you're a real football fan.
I know San Francisco.
No. I said the first team to win 4 Super Bowls. Everybody should know it. If you're a fan of football, you should know it, or turn in your football card. You're not a real football fan. Okay. This is a teaching moment tonight. Everybody should know this. It was the Pittsburgh Steelers, man.
Steelers.
Come on, Lions Den. I'm taking your football card. You're not a football fan. Come on now. You're supposed to know this. Come on, brother. It was the Pittsburgh Steelers that won 4 Super Bowls. They were the first team. You know why they had a dominant defense and a dominant offense, right? You know why they had a dominant team? Do you know that the majority of the players that played on the Pittsburgh Steelers team, where you think they played their college football at originally? Come on now, Lions Den. You got to know this.
Yeah, I know it's from all black schools.
Yeah, man.
All black schools.
A lot of them play a lot.
I know that.
Yeah, a lot of them played the historical black colleges. A good number of them came out of schools like Grambling State, like Southern. Okay. Do you know? I'm gonna give you some more football history. There was a guy named Joe Gilliam. Joe Gilliam played in his historical black college. He was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was a better quarterback than Terry Bradshaw. The only reason why Terry Bradshaw won 4 Super Bowls and has 4 rings on his fingers today, and the only reason why we know who Terry Bradshaw was, because when he got there, he was not a good quarterback, is because of Joe Gilliam had a drug problem. Even Terry Bradshaw admits that Joe Gilliam was a better quarterback than him, had a stronger arm, was more athletic. Joe Gilliam couldn't keep his nose clean. He got hooked on drugs. He ended up being released from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if it had not been for that, he would have led the Pittsburgh Steelers to those 4 Super Bowls. And Terry Bradshaw would have been still sitting on the bench because he was a way better quarterback than Terry Bradshaw. Even Terry Bradshaw admits that to this day. Okay? And he couldn't keep his... And guess where he came from? A black college. Walter Payton. They called him Sweetness. Walter Payton played at Jackson Southern. I believe he played at... No. Walter Payton played at Jackson State University. That's a black university.
Yeah.
Okay? Walter Payton is arguably the best running back to ever played in the game. Most of these black players that played in the NFL in the early days of the 60s and 50s and the 70s, they all came out of black schools. And they made the NFL what it is today. Black schools. So can't nobody tell me that if you don't have, and the reason why they were coming out of these black schools is because these white schools would not recruit black players. And the coaches in the NFL realized that the best players were playing in the black schools, and they were recruiting them because they could play better than the white boys could play. Which is why my theory is true. If we send all our kids to the black historical colleges that are athletes, and all kids for that matter, no matter if they're athletic, we could transform college sports as we know it today, and we could destroy.
Right. And
Nick Saban wouldn't be winning nothing. Okay? Matter of fact, you would have Nick Saban and some of these white coaches knocking on the black schools like Morehouse, talking about, can I please be a coach for y'all? Can I please coach your football team? My name is Nick Saban. You remember me? I used to win championships with Alabama. And now that black players, I can't recruit black players to my school no more. I'm begging you, can I please fill out an application to be a football coach for the historical black colleges? And guess what I would do if I was a college president? I would slam the door on him and say, go away. That's what I would do. Go away. Because this is about black folks doing for black folks. Nick Saban's rich because we make Nick Saban rich. We make the SEC rich. We make the ACC rich. We make the Pac-12 rich. We make the Big 12 rich because we keep sending our most precious resource to these schools, which is black young males and young ladies that are athletes. And they go there, they get little to no education. At least in the black schools, they'll get a nurturing education. They won't have to deal with racism and prejudice, okay? They won't have to deal with being marginalized, underestimated, and undervalued, okay? They will get an education, and at the same time, they can still get to the NFL, get to the NBA, because those NBA teams would recognize that the best talent is playing here. Imagine if LeBron James, Westbrook, Stephen Curry, all the guys that are in the NBA today were playing at historical black colleges. Guess what? They would still be in the NBA today. Now, I said a mouthful. I did, and I said it, and I want to know what your thoughts are, Lions Den.
Well, I'm glad you said the Pittsburgh Steelers because, and you're absolutely right that they won back in the day 4 Super Bowls. The thing what I see right now is the sports athletes is that you see these coaches is trying to recruit, try to do whatever. I agree with you. They try to do whatever they try to do to get one of them talent athletes to go to their schools. And I also agree that now is the time for all the black, the black group that has athletes or that has talent to go to all those, all those black schools like Alcorn State, like Jacksonville State, like Southern, Grambling, all them schools that do need talent players to go to their schools. But it's funny, Info, that you have major schools that try to give the parents money to bring their sports athletes. And to me, this is why I said that the FBI is investigating these major universities, because basically they really broke the law. But they trying to cover it up.
That's right.
I'm just trying to recruit. No, you didn't. You try to bribe. And you know what they call it? Bribery. You bribing parents. You bribing these people to come to your school to play football and basketball, and yet you still don't give these students money to play. So that is just a straight up insult, and that's why I said that it's time for all the black colleges to come together and get all the talent to go to their schools. And I agree with you that this has to stop, Info. That has to stop.
Well, I brought that up for the simple fact that the only reason why they make money off of our kids is because we continue to send our kids there. And I contend that black people do this because we're culturally conditioned to see, once again, in America, we are culturally conditioned to see white as superior and black as inferior. And as a manifestation of this cultural conditioning, we will underestimate, undervalue, and marginalize ourselves, and we are marginalized as black people in American society. And we do it to ourselves because we believe that the white schools are better, that if we send our kids to these white universities, that they're going to get to professional sports quicker, and that they're going to get a better education, and that they're going to be so much more opened up to them because we are always caking for white daddy. The white daddy is the one that is going to do everything for us, and we got this slave mentality, and that really comes from the fact that black people, and we don't want to admit this, but it's just the truth, we are still culturally conditioned. We are still affected by the trans-American slave trade. We are impacted by years of conditioning, of coming from being people that were slaves on a plantation, going from being in slavery to Reconstruction, from Jim Crow to civil rights, to where we are today. We still tend to be culturally conditioned to see ourselves as inferior. And because we see ourselves as inferior, we think that by going to these schools like the Alabamas, the USCs, the Texas, the Tennessees, the Auburns, the Georgias, and the Floridas, and the Florida states, for example, and the Oregons, we somehow think that if we go to those schools, that will help our self-esteem and make us feel good about ourselves, make us think that we have a ride because we're in the white man's environment, and that we as parents will feel proud because our kids go to these white universities that we can proudly brag to our family or our friends about. And at the same time, our kids 9 out of 10 times are not getting the education. Kids 9 out of 10 times are being exploited by the NCAA and being exploited by these colleges and university. Because remember, years ago, you had these athletes being exploited where you had the EA Sports, you had the video games where they were putting the players' likenesses in the video games. And I think it was Ed O'Bannon who played basketball at UCLA. UCLA. He was at UCLA. He took a lawsuit out against UCLA, and he filed a lawsuit against NCAA because they were using his likeness in the video games, and he said that he wasn't getting paid for that. A lot of athletes don't get paid, and do you know that when you play for a college as an athlete and you graduate from that college, they can still use your likeness, and they get paid, but you don't get paid. and they can claim that it's theirs, that your likeness is theirs. You know why? Because in a lot of these scholarships, this is hidden truth, folks. In a lot of these scholarships, they have hidden clauses in there. When these kids sign that letter of intent, under the small print, it says that they can use your likeness. They can use certain trademarks, right? When you're wearing their uniform, and that you don't get paid. Now, this is, my man, as I said, this is truth to knowledge.
Truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking truth to power.
Like I said, this is truth to power, baby. I'm going to give it to you. There's clauses that your kids are signing. A lot of us black folks, we get excited. Ooh, Tyrone. Ooh, Pookie done got that scholarship. Ooh, he going to Stanford. Ooh, he going to Harvard. He going to Cal Berkeley on that basketball scholarship. Ooh, where do I sign? And when that white man knock on your door talking about, we want to recruit your son, and they send him that letter of intent, and he get excited. Woo! And your son signed that letter and put that stupid little cap on his head like you see on television when the kids tell you what school they going to, and they put them dumb caps on their head. Okay, they put hats on their head of universities that just 50, 60 years ago, they didn't want your black butt at that university. So when you put that UCLA cap on or that Alabama cap on, them white folks at Alabama, they didn't want us there. The only reason why they started recruiting black folks in these southern schools like Bear Bryant, because all the northern schools, this is some sports history here, folks. All the northern schools like Syracuse that had Jim Brown, all the northern schools and the schools in the West Coast were going after the black athletes, and they were kicking the Souths behind in football. And Bear Bryant said, we sick of getting our butts kicked by these northern and these western schools, so we got to get us some Negroes in here quickly. And that's when Alabama started recruiting the black players. And then you had Tennessee. I think there was a black quarterback. I think his name was Cardell Holiday or something like that. He was a quarterback for Tennessee, a black quarterback. You start seeing the black athlete emerging into the Southern Conference football conference, because before they didn't want black people at these schools. Now, let me show you how racism works in America. This is what's embarrassing. You have, Mississippi University, who used to have a mascot called Colonel Reb, and they got rid of Colonel Reb. That's racism. Colonel Reb represented the Confederate Army that was against us, man, right? And at one time, you had white folks used to bring their Confederate flags to the football games at Mississippi while black players are on the field, baby. This is like going back in time. And so I always ask myself, why do black people send their kids to Mississippi? Do you know Lion's Den? I'm going to open up your eyes right now. This is to open up one's mind. Do you realize that the Mississippi University football team, that their football colors are the Confederate flag colors? It's got that deep blue and that deep red. Have you ever peeped that out?
Yeah, I did.
So when you see the black players playing for Mississippi, look at their uniforms, folks. It's a deep blue and a deep red. All you got to do is compare it to a Confederate flag, and the colors are exactly the same as a Confederate flag. So you sending your kids to play for Mississippi, and they're wearing a Confederate flag uniform. Peep it out. I'm not playing with y'all. I'm not playing with y'all on YouTube and Facebook Live and everybody else, because this is truth to power, baby.
Truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking truth to power.
That's right. Once again, we speaking truth to power. With that said, Lions Den, as I've gone on do you have anything you want to add before we end the program tonight?
Yeah, my final thoughts for everybody, for the parents, especially African American parents that has your son and daughters that want to go to college. That's athletic, and make sure you check out the HBCUs. Just make sure you check them out, because it's all about the money. It's always has been about the money, and I mean, people. There's some athletics that has knowledge. They're already educated, and the more you check out HBCUs, the better it will be. That's my final thoughts and phone.
Okay, I agree with that. Like I said, I think black people should consider doing that. We could transform the historical black colleges. They will get an influx of money. Our kids will get educated. They will get a good education. They will be in an environment that will be nurturing with teachers that care about them more than just their athletic prowess. Because we send our kids to these white universities, and for the most part, those universities don't care about our kids. Okay? And our kids deal with race. I remember when I was in college, man, and I went to San Francisco State, and we had incidents in which you had black people that were dealing with some racism up in the dormitories, man. Mistreatment. We're always having to deal with that, man. And because we're in a world where there's a lot going on around race, man. And it's like this, my brother. It's like we're dealing in a world that's dealing with race. And it's like this.
I was on the Los Angeles Police Department for 20 years. I was a sergeant of police when I retired. I'm well aware that there are officers within that agency that have biases and preconceived ideas. So no, I'm not surprised to know that somehow white supremacists have infiltrated the ranks of police departments around the nation.
Race and war. There is a conflict. We're talking about a system, the phenomenal mass incarceration, the police killings. This is a recipe, many people argue, and I think it's true, for a new form of genocide.
The fact that it's always white people at the top and black people at the bottom, that's not some kind of psychic phenomena, that's policy. Those are the consequence of the race war against black people.
Are we in a race war?
All right, I have an opinion on that whole subject. You know, there's no equality. You look at the system, it's really designed for us to fail.
Are you a white supremacist?
I'm absolutely not a white supremacist. I think that's a word that should be retired. I am a white advocate and a race realist.
When I say this as a police officer, that this stuff happens, I'm not telling the black community something they don't know. I'm just validating and corroborating what they know to be true because this is their lived experience.
A lot of people like to refer to our judicial system as broken. Our judicial system is not broken. It's operating exactly the way it was designed to operate.
This nation was established by Europeans with the idea that it was going to be an extension of Europe. So whites, whether they will admit it or not, don't like the fact that their neighborhoods, their institutions are becoming increasingly non-white.
White supremacy has to do with the idea that I'm better than you. And I can, through power, through manipulation, control anything and everything as it relates to anyone else. I am God.
Okay, I want to... I want to stop that there. That is my man Jason Black. That's one clip from a movie he's working on called Race War. He's got a channel. It's called The Black Channel. Check it out. He's on YouTube, The Black Authority. I follow him because he's very controversial. He says it like it is. He puts it down like it is. I don't know him personally, but I know he's on YouTube. I'm just going to send him a little bit of love in promoting what he's trying to do. He is looking for people to support the crowdfunding for the for the movie. He did it with the movie 7 a.m., which was a big success. He did it with Gentrified, which is a big success. He's a cutting edge type of brother. He's in, like I said, he's just like Tariq with the Hidden Color series. He's that kind of brother. So I want to just give him a little bit of love and let everybody out there hear that, because that is what is going on in these colleges with the NCAA and the fact that they don't pay young athletes. And it ain't just, yeah, we're talking about black athletes, but keep in mind, there are white athletes too on these football teams and these basketball teams, and they should be paid as well because, they're on a scholarship. But we're particularly focusing on the black athlete because the black athlete makes up the majority of these athletic programs that take in money, football and basketball. And so I think it's very important that we recognize the racism that the NCAA is operating off of an old 1950 system. Okay, these kids can't work. They can't take money from boosters. If they were to get money from someone, they'll lose their scholarship. They can't. Remember, let me say something. Remember Dez Bryant? I don't like Dez Bryant. I think his career is starting to take a downslide in the NFL. But remember, Dez Bryant had what did he do? He had dinner with Deion Sanders. He had a dinner with Deion Sanders. This is why it's a slave plantation. They want to tell us who we can hang out with, who we can be with, and what we can do. So Dez Bryant, when he was at Oklahoma State, prior to him getting drafted, getting close to the draft, he met with Deion Sanders. I believe it was Deion Sanders who took him out for dinner. And because he met with Deion Sanders, and I guess Deion Sanders must have flipped the bill for the meal, right? Because he probably took him to a nice restaurant, right? Because he met with Deion Sanders, do you know that they gave him a lot of hell for meeting with Deion Sanders when he was in college under the NCAA rules? And Deion Sanders came out and said, I didn't give the boy no money, okay? I just took him out to a dinner and we had a conversation because I know that he's going to go to the next level. This is the kind of stuff. So because he goes out to dinner with Deion Sanders, the NCAA doesn't like that. And they penalize the brother. This is what they do, man. You can't do anything. You can't take money from somebody to go fly home to bury your mother or your father, okay? And like I said, I don't blame these young athletes for taking money. Let's talk about the Fad Five. I don't blame Jalen Rose. I don't blame Chris Webber. I don't blame that whole Fad Five team for taking money. Because Jalen Rose, he was on the 30 for 30 about the Fad Five. And they were talking about how that was a phenomenal team of freshmen and how Michigan is a university, Michigan and the NCAA and everybody was making money off of those young men when they were doing their thing in college as college basketball players. Everybody was making money but them. They wasn't making no money. And anytime, right. And so if I'm a college athlete and I hang out with somebody that's got money, that's my friend, and they give me money, and the university, then if the NCAA finds out about that, I'm in trouble, right? I mean, they have it down to a science. You're not even supposed to meet with an agent, man, right? So, all the NCAA wants our young black athletes to do is to do their bidding to make money for them. That's it. Okay? That's it. Remember Johnny Manziel? And I don't like Johnny Manziel at all, but remember Johnny Manziel was making money signing autographs because people wanted his autograph. Soon as the NCAA found out that he was signing autographs for pay, they tried to penalize him. Remember? So let's look at this. Everybody's making money. You can't even sign your name on a jersey and get paid for it. And if you do so, you could lose your scholarship and get kicked off the team, or you could be seen as a pariah. This is what the NCAA is about. Okay? This is why the NCAA is out of bounds. There needs to be lawsuits taken against them. And someday, I hope soon, that the student athlete could create their own union to fight against the NCAA, take them to the Supreme Court, and make the NCAA pay for all the years of what they've been doing. I really think it's going to come down to that. But I still think that black folks should send our kids to historical black colleges so that we can hurt them and crush them, crush these white universities, crush them in their economic pocket. And if we do that, these schools will come falling down and the NCAA won't be worth anything to anybody, because black athletes are what make these colleges move and shake. Black athlete is what makes NBA and NFL what it is today. Without us, sports would be boring in this world. Believe me, boring. With that said, Lions Den, do you have anything you want to say before I end it quickly?
Yeah, Info. I was going to add something to what Jalen Rose. Jalen Rose did also say he wants everybody to boycott the NCAA, the March Madness, because of what's going on with the not paying players to play. So I'm just letting you add that too as well.
Wonderful. We should boycott it. The bottom line is we shouldn't buy one ticket to the NCAA basketball tournament. And like I told you before, Lions Den, I'm not really impressed with black folks that can dance and sing. That comes a dime a dozen. That's what they allowed us to do. I'm more impressed with black folks that are using their minds, science, accounting, doctors, lawyers, black folks that are working in engineering, black folks that are working with kids, teachers, people that are doing things with their mind. I'm not impressed with black folks that can dance and shake their booty. We already know we can do that. That's why when you look at Facebook or you look at videos and you see little babies dancing and doing the stinky dance, I think that's the most embarrassing thing. I think it's the most degrading thing, that we think that that's funny to see little kids dancing around when that's buffoonery. And black folks, we need to get away from the buffoonery. The entertainment is not going to be what's going to get us anywhere. Most of these entertainers today are not woke. They're not doing anything. Michael Jordan didn't do a damn thing for the black community. You know, he never spoke out about anything. I do give respect to black athletes that speak out. I mean, LeBron James speaks out every now and then. You know, he had a racial situation at his house in L.A. where someone wrote N-word on his house. I mean, the black athletes are waking up a little bit today and speaking out, but they're not like the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They're not like the Malcolm. They're not like, I was going to say Malcolm X. They're not like Muhammad Ali, who I love dearly. And they're not like Jim Brown, who I used to like until he sat up there meeting with Donald Trump, talking about how he loved Donald Trump. I just couldn't believe how Jim Brown, my hero, went from being an activist type of brother. And it seems like the older he gets, the more coonish he has become, or the more passive he's become, because I can't believe that he would sit up there and say that he loves Donald Trump, that Donald Trump is his brother. Can't believe it. And I was disappointed to hear him say that. And when he said that, I ceased being a big fan of, what can I say? Jim Brown is not the Jim Brown of the 70s and 60s. Somehow that Jim Brown was body snatched. If you believe in body snatch, like people having their body snatched, Jim Brown someone must have snatched his body. Okay? Jim Brown must have been walking outside one night and a flying saucer must have came down and did a body snatch on him and took the activist Jim Brown away and flew him away to another planet or something. I don't know, because Jim Brown has been cooking for Donald Trump, caking for him, and I don't understand why, but it is what it is. Like I said, we don't need Kanye West, individuals that shake their booty and just talk a lot of talk and do nothing. So join an organization, get involved, folks. But once again, send our kids to historical black colleges if we can. I know that some of the historical black colleges are very expensive. It can be very expensive for out-of-state fees. Some of them are private, like Morehouse can be very expensive. But you know what? I don't hear us complain about the white universities like Berkeley, UCLA, USC. Okay? We got some of the most expensive universities here in California. And they're some of the best. But they're very expensive. And we don't complain about when white folks We don't complain about the white folks' universities, but we always complain about black people. If a black man or a black woman has a business, oh, its food is too expensive. Oh, its prices are too high. But yet we go into stores and give our money to the Koreans who sell us hair products, which we should be dominating. We go to universities and we give our money to white folks, and we don't complain about their expensive prices. We'll pay $200 for Nike shoes, which we don't own. And then when black folks have a business and they might have to mark their prices up just to stay in business, we complain about them because we hate self and kind. We're so culturally conditioned to hate self and kind because we love white daddy so much. We love him so much that we wish that he would stop being racist towards us. And we do everything we can to want to convince white daddy that that we're good people. And I say we need to stop trying to impress white folks and trying to get them to love us. That's why black people went running to the Black Panther movie. Because it was white daddy who made the movie for us. It was white daddy from Marvel Comics that said, we create this character for y'all, and we gonna produce it for y'all. And we're going to give you a big budget. And black folks ran out to that movie, and now it's going to be probably $1 billion movie now. But yet, when black folks make movies that are good quality movies, how many of us went out and go and see those movies? How many of us supported Nate Parker and went out to see Birth of the Nation and put that up to high amounts? None of us did, hardly. Okay? How many of us support, and I know some folks don't like slave movies, so they probably didn't want to go for that reason, but there's plenty of other movies that we'll go see besides our own black movies, and we won't go up to that high tune like we did for White Daddy. Okay? Why don't we do that for ourselves when we produce movies? Okay? Why? Why don't we? I argue that we hate self and kind, which is why we send our kids to these white universities, because, like I said, we believe that the white universities are better. With that said, and I said a mouthful, everybody out there listening on YouTube and everybody listening on Instagram and Facebook Live, do me a favor, go ahead and check out my YouTube channel at Information Man Show and subscribe. It's 3 words, Information Man Show. And go on to YouTube, use your cellular phone, your iPhones, your Droid phones, your tablets, your PC computers, and check out the YouTube page and subscribe so that you can get every YouTube video that we produce at your fingertips. So I want to thank everybody. I put a piece on YouTube tonight about what happened to Andrew Jones, which was the brother who worked for Young Turks, and he expressed the racism of the Young Turks news organization. Young Turks portrays themselves as a liberal show that talks about racial issues and other issues, but this brother said that they have racism within their organization because he experienced it. So I put a YouTube about that, and I believe what the brother was saying. And I'm through with Young Turks. Check it out for yourself, folks. It's on the YouTube channel right now at Information Man Show. Information Man Show. Get your butts over there, subscribe and support. And I appreciate it. Doesn't cost you any money. And Lions Den, with that said, any last words?
Well, final words for me is stay woke, be focused, and always remember, don't trust the masses and don't believe what the mainstream media have to say. Do some research and you'll get that far. That's all I have to say, Info.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Lions Den. Once again, the NCAA is racist. They need to pay the players. They need to have something happen legally to fight to stop the NCAA from using these sort of these sort of antiquated bylaws, which do not do well towards the athlete in colleges across this country today. So I want to thank everybody for listening out there. I'm going to leave you with our ending music, and stay woke, stay alive, and always realize that information is power, baby. It always will be.
Truth. truth to power, truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking truth to power. Truth to truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking truth to power. Truth to power. Truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking truth to power. Truth. Myself. Information, and lions. Welcome to truth to power.
This is Information Man and Lion's Den. Welcome.
I want to also make sure that I give a love to the people out there in speaker.com that's been listening to the show tonight or will listen to this wherever you are in the world, day, night, or evening or morning. I want to thank you all out there that have supported me on the speaker.com, national, international. And I also want to let you all know out there in speaker.com as well. Check out the YouTube channel at Information Man Show on YouTube, and subscribe. And I'm going to just keep bringing more and more content, more and more insight as I analyze the things that are happening in our world today. And I'm going to bring up topics that you're not going to usually hear in your mainstream media, your alphabet channels, because mainstream media is not our friend. So that's what I'm trying to do. And the reason that's why I call myself Information Man, because I want to bring you information and news, something that can open up one's mind and tap into the dark matter consciousness that we all have in us, because our melanin is like vibranium in that movie Black Panther. It's powerful. It energizes us. Like I said, on a mental level, we are the extraterrestrials that we're looking for, folks. Thank you. Have a good night. It's been wonderful for everybody out there listening. Thank you. Thank you.